everyone, Bethany here. Today I got to interview Jaime Jo Wright, who is a successful Christian fiction author. She also happens to be a former homeschooler and now a homeschool mom. We discussed her homeschooling journey, what it's like to homeschool now as a busy author, and we discussed her writing tips and tricks. I really enjoyed this interview. I hope you do too. For people who don't know who you are, could you give us a little introduction and kind of just tell us what you do and everything like that?
Sure. Well, I'm Jaime Jo Wright, and I live in Wisconsin. I like to say I live deep in the woods, and with all the deer and the raccoon, and the wildlife. But I
That's great.
am a author. I write fiction for Bethany House Publishers and
Mhm,
also for Harlequin Love-Inspired Suspense,
mhm.
and also self-publishing some of my own works too. So. That's
Great.
what I do on a regular basis, along with a side job of social media management for authors as well. So
Great. I didn't know you did that. That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, I'm well immersed in the writing world, that's for sure.
You are, you are. And so do you think that overlaps into your like as a homeschool mom? Do you think that
Oh yeah.
overlaps?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's very, sorry. I also have a
Oh
cat,
my
but
goodness.
as a homeschooler, you know that pets are always interrupting all the important conversations.
Yep. I went from homeschooling to working from home and they always interrupt.
Yes, yes. I should have put the cat in the kennel, but
It's fine. I'm a cat person, so it's all
okay.
good.
All
Is
right,
that,
perfect.
did I see you post on Facebook? I feel like a stalker. I'm just a big fan. I'll just be
Oh, that's
honest. I'll
okay.
get it right out in the open so you don't think I'm a weirdo.
No, no, you're fine. You're fine. Yes,
Um,
that's Foo.
okay,
That
yeah,
was Foo. Yeah,
that's great.
he's my I think he's becoming kind of the mascot for my books.
Mm-hmm.
We're starting
Mm-hmm.
to get stickers made with Foo on it, and
No way.
hashtags are like Foo approved and hashtag
That's
Foo
so
fix, and
cute.
readers are starting to use those. So it's kind of fun.
That's so cute. I love that. I'm a huge cat person. You might see mine. They like to visit. If they hear me talking, they'll come.
See, and
So,
that's yeah, that's why he's here because he's like, wait, you're talking to somebody other than me. Why, mom?
exactly. So anyway, um, how long have you been writing and in the writing and publishing world?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I've been writing since I was a kid. That started at a very young age, and wrote my first novel when I was 15. Perks of being
Great.
homeschooled, right? And plenty of time
Mm-hmm.
to write,
Mm-hmm.
and work on your hobbies. And so I've been
That's right.
writing really strong from that point on.
Excellent.
And it's a super long journey to get to the traditional publishing
Mm-hmm.
road. I know some people, I
Yes.
mean, you can self-publish pretty much anything you want to right away
Mm-hmm.
if you want to
Mm-hmm.
now, but traditional publishing is a much longer journey.
Yeah.
And so I really got active in that probably about 12 years ago.
Excellent.
And yeah, it's been a journey since then.
And then did you start with traditional publishing or self-publishing?
I started with traditional.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay. Yep.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Excellent. And if I just pause and I'm looking down, I'm just taking some little notes here and there.
You are totally fine.
And then, so what does your homeschooling journey look like? How did you get started with that as a
Yeah.
student and then transitioning to a mom, a homeschool mom and everything? How does that look for you?
Well, it is a really neat journey. So, I'm trying to figure out like how much to tell as far as like keeping this not like a super long story.
Yeah,
Because
whatever
as
you
writers,
prefer.
we don't tell stories short. This is not a short form thing for writers.
That's
Um,
okay, whatever you prefer.
I like to call myself a first generation homeschooler. So,
Mhm,
for the sake of transparency, I'm 49.
mhm.
So I graduated in 1994. I did all 12 years of my education at home.
Excellent.
And my dad was really involved we live in Wisconsin. He was really involved in lobbying and such
Mhm.
for homeschoolers and
Wonderful.
Christian family values within the Wisconsin government. He actually had
Wow.
run for Congress a couple times
Wow.
and was part of that pivotal movement to get homeschooling, for lack
That's
of a better
great.
word, normalized in
Yeah.
Wisconsin, where it wasn't
Yeah.
looked down on as you're just pulling your kids from school to sit at home
Yeah.
and do nothing.
Yeah.
Um, so we were one of just a couple of families in our county that started homeschooling. And so I was very much the abnormal. It
Mm-hmm.
was almost, I mean, growing up, you'd say you were homeschooled and people would be like, oh.
Exactly.
You're
Yeah.
one of those. You are going to be
Yes.
lucky if you succeed at anything in life.
Yes. Like you have a disease.
Yes. Oh, very much so. It's leprosy.
Yes.
Ah. Um,
Yes.
and I'm obviously extremely not social. Very awkward socially and all
Oh,
those things.
yeah.
That was the big
Yeah.
concern. So that was a lot of what my dad was working for within the government here in Wisconsin,
Excellent.
and through a lobbyist organization that he helped found here in Wisconsin. And so, all of that to say, I went through 12 years of school. My brother was in public school for first few years. He was
Mhm.
older than me, and that was one of the reasons my parents decided to start moving in the direction of homeschool because of just the school system and situations
Mhm.
there.
Yeah.
So, by the time it got to me starting school, I started and
You were ready. Yeah.
I was ready and
Hmm.
never really wanted to go to public school. My parents gave
Yeah.
me the option,
Mhm.
strongly discouraged, but the option. And but I really had no desire to. I enjoyed
Yeah.
my freedom, especially when you can sit for 4 hours a day and just read or write
Yeah,
novels.
I was the same way. Yeah. So
Yeah.
how did you use a writing curriculum that got you hooked on writing, or did you just discover it on your own, or okay.
Yeah, I slowly
Excellent.
discovered it on my own. I would say I started reading when I was 4,
Oh my
and
word.
my
Okay.
parents didn't know that I could read. A friend of theirs actually discovered it because I was sitting in the corner with a book reading out loud.
Oh my
Um, I
word.
hadn't even started school yet, and so that was obviously something innate in me at a very
Mm-hmm.
young age. And
Yeah.
I always was studying story. I think it was just something that God had put in me
Mm.
to be interested in. And then there was an elderly woman in our church who ran our church library. And that was right about the time period where, I mean, Jeanette Oak, Love Comes
Yeah.
Softly, had been
Mm-hmm.
released, I think maybe like 10 years out. It was like the first in Christian fiction. And then there was Lori Wick and
Right.
Tracy Peterson and some of the pioneers of
Mm-hmm.
Christian
Mm-hmm.
fiction. And so she would get me their books as they would release. And so
Oh,
that's
that's
how I got
wonderful.
introduced to Christian fiction.
That's
And then from
wonderful.
there, it just kind of spiraled for my whole life. So.
Yeah. So what got you interested in the mystery aspect of writing?
Nathaniel Hawthorne, you can blame him.
Okay. Okay.
And Charles Dickens, right? So obviously being the homeschooled nerd that I was, I was always seeking out authors. I started reading Nancy Drew,
Mm-hmm.
obviously Trixie Belden, the Boxcar
Yep.
Children, all the
Mm-hmm.
classics.
Mm-hmm.
And those had me super interested in mystery. I didn't really get into the kind of the gothic slash dark. And when I say
Mm-hmm.
dark, I'm not talking nasty dark, just like that
Yeah.
creepy element.
Yes.
I didn't get into that until I started reading Charles Dickens.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then Nathaniel Hawthorne really sealed it for me when I read The House of Seven Gables. So, I mean, he's known
Mm-hmm.
for like the Scarlet Letter, but
Yeah.
everybody needs to read The House of Seven Gables
Okay. I'll add that to my list.
If you want that true Gothic
Yes.
read.
Yes.
And then, of course, there's the ever popular Jane Eyre, of
Mm-hmm.
course.
Mm-hmm.
And so those books just really lit. I love vintage, I love old.
Mm-hmm.
But I also love to see how it affects the present day.
Yes.
And
Mm-hmm.
so that was always my thing is like, okay, if these mysteries happened back then, what would
Mm-hmm.
happen if they're still affecting people today? And
Yes.
that's kind of where I started morphing into my
Yes.
own line of
Mm-hmm.
fiction.
Yeah, I know. I read, well, I just read The Bells at, I'm never going to say the name right.
The
Is
Bell
it Tr
Tolls at Traeger Hall.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I got an arc for that and it was so good. Oh my
Oh,
word.
awesome.
Every
Awesome.
time you
Glad
nail
you
it.
liked it.
Every time.
Well, I don't know if I nail it, but I try. I try and make it so that you've got the past mystery and the
Hmm.
present day story, and you can't read one without the other. Like they have to
Hmm.
be super interwoven and dependent on each
Hmm.
other because I think that's really how legacy is, right? You
Yeah.
can't separate your past from your
Hmm.
present. And it's so interesting to dive into just the mystery of how they work together and influence your life
Yeah.
choices today based on what great grandmother did,
Yes,
100 years ago.
exactly. Well, and I think too, because homeschooling is family focused, I think a lot of parents, if they read your books, will be able to relate to that generational writing style where everything
Yes,
impacts the next thing. And plus the historical element, it's very educational too. I
I
think I
try.
learned a
I
lot.
try.
Yeah.
It's educational in a different way. I
Mm-hmm.
obviously, you have Christian fiction and historical Christian fiction, for example, explores. There's lots of World War II fiction.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Mm-hmm.
some amazing authors who write for the early American fiction, Civil War, etc. And I'm always diving into some of the lesser known elements
Yes.
that were
Yes.
really big, normal parts of life. And of course, being
Mm-hmm.
Gothic kind of mystery, a lot of it has to do with like Victorian funeral processes and
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
what was how did they handle when somebody died and what were the
Yes, that was
superstitions.
fascinating. That I loved reading that. I mean, not loved in like a weird sense, but
No,
I
but yeah,
loved
yeah.
the just the historical elements and how it affected culture. It was very well done.
Right. And it was so interesting to me too as I study it, and I won't go into it too deeply, but when you study Victorian religion as it relates to biblical religion, biblical
Mm-hmm.
faith, let me say,
Mm-hmm.
and then the big push of spiritualism that really started in the
Mm-hmm.
1840s and then continued to get really
Mm-hmm.
popular all the way up through the 1920s. It's kind of died down, but now that concept of mysticism,
Mm-hmm.
superstitions, witchcraft, etc., is becoming extremely popular
Yes.
within culture as a whole, and it's becoming
Mm-hmm.
very normalized, which is actually not unlike what it was back in the day.
Right. Right.
And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people feel like, oh, we've gotten so much worse. I'm like, actually, no, we're just repeating a lot of the
Yes.
earlier
Mm-hmm.
eras. And so I don't want to say fun, but it's interesting
Yes,
to
how it just
research
circles
that
back.
and it circles.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
exactly.
I don't know if you've seen Murdoch Mysteries. It's a Canadian mystery show. I've watched it for years, and they
Yeah,
covered that because they follow historical events or historical
right.
figures. Well, maybe
Hmm.
you've seen it.
Yep.
And I know that spiritualism was a big couple
Mhm.
episodes of the show. They follow that, and it's interesting to see how well that's happening right now. People are still
Mhm.
going crazy over that. Yeah.
Right, right. And I think so much of it is, and that's why I write, people ask me like, why do you write dark fiction in Christian fiction? Like they're
Mm-hmm.
like, how does that work together? Isn't that like
Mm-hmm.
elements of haunting, paranormal curses, etc.? Isn't
Mm-hmm.
that demonic or a part of the
Mm-hmm.
darkness?
Mm-hmm.
And I always try to explain it like I explain it two ways. One, I write the dark fiction from an entertainment standpoint, like Scooby-Doo, right? Where
Yes.
you're watching a
Yeah.
Scooby-Doo cartoon and there's a ghost and it's chasing you, and all of a sudden you get to the end of the hall, the sheet
Hmm.
comes off, and you're like, it's the school janitor, right?
Exactly.
So all the
Yes.
hauntings and everything in my books are always explained on a human level. It's
Hmm.
never actually paranormal.
Right.
Um, on the flip side, I also think spiritually and as believers, it's really important for us to explore death with
Hmm.
the vision of what has God intended beyond
Hmm.
the life that we're living currently. And I
Exactly.
think there's a huge disconnect within Christianity as a whole, where we still get wrapped up in cultures, oh, death and grief, and we
Hmm.
wallow in that. And I think to a degree, if the person who's passed away does not have a relationship with the Lord, then that's a separate
Yes.
type of grief.
Exactly.
But if we have someone who's passed away, like my mom, for example, who finished her race
Hmm.
and asked me to hold her hand until she saw
Hmm.
Jesus. And I know the moment she
Hmm.
saw Jesus because she literally physically pushed my hand away.
No kidding.
Yes.
Wow.
And so I'm kind of like, when you come to those moments of
Hmm.
death and grief and darkness,
Hmm.
we as believers need to have that hope, right?
Yes.
And not stay at the point of death, but look
Hmm.
past it. And what's that spark of hope? So I try
That's
to
right.
do that with my fiction where it's like, let's go gothic and let's go dark and creepy, but then
Hmm.
let's take people to a point where, hey, you don't have to stay in the dark,
Yes, yes,
right?
exactly. And I know the first book I read by you was The Curse of Misty Wayfair, and I remember reading it and just absolutely sobbing because it just
Oh,
touched that part of my heart where I don't know, you write in a way that it's so I don't want to say realistic because that doesn't even sum it up correctly, but it's very raw and it really
Mm.
embraces the human experience on a biblical level. It's beautiful. It really is.
And that's encouraging to hear because that's my
Mm,
prayer when I write. But
mm-hmm.
I'm always worried to write because I don't want to misrepresent truth.
Oh no, you
You
don't.
know, because, but
No,
it's
you
one of those
don't.
things, right? You know,
Yeah.
you realize that like years after I'm dead, my books are
Mm-hmm.
still going to be on bookshelves and somebody's going to pull it out, maybe, hopefully, and read it 100 years
Mm-hmm.
from now. And
Yeah.
I would hate to misrepresent the Lord 100 years from now in as I speak from the grave, so to speak. So it's encouraging, it's
Yeah.
encouraging to hear that. It's encouraging to hear
Yes.
that.
Yes. And I think too, just with everything you're talking about, like deep diving into historical events, I think that can also be a part of homeschooling because
Mhm.
I think we're encouraged to deep dive, we're encouraged to study. So did you find yourself doing that on your homeschooling journey?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I was raised with a grandmother who was very much tied to ancestry. And
Oh,
so
mm-hmm.
there's a lot of people who are like, I'm not quite sure who my great grandmother is or where they came
Mm-hmm.
from. And that's all stuff that was drilled into me at a young, young age.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I have the ship's manifest of my 5 times great grandfather. Well, not the
Oh my
original
goodness.
manifest, but a
Yes,
copy
but
of it, I should clarify,
yes.
of
Yes.
him coming from England. I have
Mm-hmm.
my dad's side of the family. He has a cousin who's traced us all the way back to the Revolution, and I'm like the 34th cousin of Benedict Arnold. And
What?
I know, don't
That
get too
is so
excited about
cool.
that. That's like
Ah.
when you start searching out your history and you find out you're on the non-American side. It's
Oh yeah.
not super exciting. I'm like, oh, my patriotism is taking a massive hit right now.
I didn't think about it like that,
Yeah,
but yeah, I
I'm
get
like,
what you
oh,
mean.
yay. I'm like, I knew my grandmother's maiden name was Arnold. And then when you start going back and you're like, oh,
Oh,
that
that
Arnold.
Arnold.
Shucks.
Exact.
I mean, cool, but not cool. And then
That's
my
funny.
dad's line also is like, I don't know, it's full of American history. And so then I'm like researching more of the family tree that has been passed down.
Hmm.
So it wasn't just ancestry.com, it was like literal stuff
Yeah.
that's been passed down in the
Yeah.
family. And I find out he's like, oh, we're directly from such and such Randolph, I can't remember his first name right off the top of my head, who was part of the signing of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence and all this. This is exciting. And I'm looking into it. And I'm like, oh, no, you're the guy who refused to sign it because you didn't agree. This is just not working out well for me in my family history.
Oh my
So
goodness.
I just keep
Oh,
like
that's when you
I
want to
like
sort of
hit.
stop looking.
I know it's like it's just I'm like 2 strikes down. I've got a third strike here, and I'm afraid to look any deeper. But family history is so interesting,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
and there's little stories that get passed down. Obviously, they're
Mm-hmm.
not as exciting as people who declined to sign what I think it was the Constitution. Um, that's not
Mm-hmm.
as exciting. It is, but it isn't. But,
Yeah.
and then you have stories of great grandpa who, drowned trying to save another man's life. And then you have the story of
Wow.
the my grandpa who raised his 4 brothers and 2 sisters after his parents died,
Oh
and
my
all the
goodness.
brothers got shipped out for World War II. And how did they keep the family farm alive? And how did their family
Wow.
faith affect each one differently? And so
Mm-hmm.
all of that, you look at all of those pieces, and you're like, if you erase all of that and you just put me, all of a sudden I'm like, huh, how much of all of this affected me? And
Yes.
if my grandfather hadn't been so adamant that they weren't going to be separated without parents,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
where would have we ended up? Right?
Yes, that's true.
He would have had 6 children split and sent to all these
Mm.
different homes with all these different futures.
Yes.
And then that
Yes.
would have affected my mom and that would have affected
Mm-hmm.
me. And so you look at all those
Yes.
things and it's just this tapestry, right?
It is. Yes, it is. That's great. So how do you juggle being a successful writer and then also a homeschool mom?
I make my husband do it. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, it is teamwork, and I do really
Yes.
believe in an
Mm-hmm.
ideal homeschooling situation. You do go into it if you can, and I realize there's
Mm-hmm.
different family structures, and I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's possible to go into it with a partnership, whether that's
Mm-hmm.
with your spouse or whether that's with grandparents,
Mm-hmm. That's
etc.
great. Yeah.
When we started, we didn't start homeschooling. In fact, I had always sworn I would never homeschool, and it had nothing to do with my own background. It
Mm-hmm.
had to do with the fact that I'm the mom that has zero interest in homeschooling. Like I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
teach. That's not my gift.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My
Yeah.
gift is words, and if my kids want to learn how to write a book, I'm there for it. But outside of
Mm-hmm.
that, they will fail
Yeah.
every math class if I teach them. Their future is doomed, right? And so that's kind of how I viewed the idea of me being a homeschooled
Mm-hmm.
mom.
Mm-hmm.
And circumstances pushed us into a situation a lot with the pandemic that started. Oh, that always changes
Mm-hmm.
things. So we started
Yeah.
homeschooling through then. The kids loved it. And there's
Mm.
so many resources out there now where I'm like, oh, I don't actually have to understand
Yeah.
algebra myself. There's
Yes.
online
Yes.
courses with online teachers who know way more
Mm-hmm.
than I do. And then my husband's also a teacher, and so he teaches at a private Christian school.
Excellent.
But he's also been a youth pastor for many years and
Mm-hmm.
gone to seminary for apologetics and biblical
Oh,
languages.
wonderful.
And so you build a partnership, right? My dad
Mm-hmm.
taught my kids a lot of American history. He would come into American history class. My
That's
mom taught my
great.
daughter baking and cooking.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother-in-law still does the baking and cooking with my daughter because if
Oh,
I
that's
do
wonderful.
it, we're going to all starve. It's like when God gives you this really amazing gift of like, you are going to be a talented writer, but
Mm-hmm.
that's all I can give you. Like, I've maxed out.
One
Like,
slot.
you get that, but then there's nothing else. So I'm the testament to the homeschooling parent
Yes.
who
Mm-hmm.
can't homeschool, right? Like,
Mm,
you
yeah.
weren't born to do this. But
Mm-hmm.
there's so
That's
many
great.
amazing resources out there. And I've found
Mm-hmm.
that my role as a homeschooling mom, and also frankly being the main breadwinner of the house, not because
Mm-hmm.
of any power control, but just because that's where the Lord's taken
Yeah.
us.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the working mother, and
Mm-hmm.
my husband does a lot of the homeschooling stuff with the kids because he's a
Mm-hmm.
part-time teacher. And I'm the
Yeah.
mom that helps with the nurturing when they're frustrated with a test and they're crying because this has
Mm-hmm.
been the worst day of their life at school.
Mm-hmm.
They don't go
Mm-hmm.
to dad for that, which is fine. They
Yeah.
come
Yeah.
downstairs, they find mom, and they're like, I just need a hug. And I'm like, yeah,
Oh.
now go do algebra. You know, so there's different roles within that. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really important with homeschooling that we don't box ourselves into
That,
the
yeah.
mom is the teacher, the dad is the worker, or
That's
vice
good. Mm-hmm.
versa. It's all teamwork and we're all bringing specific
Mm-hmm.
gifts to it.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And I think I've been doing a lot of research on Facebook and joining homeschooling Facebook groups for my
Mhm.
job. And
Sure.
I've seen a lot of people really want to homeschool, but they don't know how to do it. You know, they might be a
Mhm.
single parent, or
Mhm.
one parent isn't totally in favor, or they just don't think they're
Right.
capable. And I think that's so true about it shouldn't really box us in because it
Mhm.
honestly, I think homeschooling is about bringing freedom and it's supposed to fit how your family is structured. It's supposed to work for you, not you
Right.
working for homeschooling. So
Right.
that's really good advice that you shared. I think
Yeah.
a lot of our families will be able to relate to that.
I hope so. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, you're right. There's so many different family units and structures. Um, you know, I've got friends who are single moms and
Mhm.
they're like, I would love to homeschool, but I have to work, I have to do this.
Mhm. Mhm.
And those are understandable situations.
That's
And
right.
so, I think the other important part is to not, if you're desiring to be a homeschooling parent and you're in a point in life where it isn't working,
Mhm.
don't look at that as a failure.
Yeah. Mhm.
Look at that as a journey that God has you and your child on. And so
Yeah.
if the doors to homeschooling have closed,
Mhm.
then
Mhm.
God's opened other doors that He's going to teach your children a specific journey they need to learn. And
That's
so
great.
to
Mm.
not be defeated that you're having to send your child out into culture or something that you're like, oh my goodness, but
Yeah.
go with them,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm. Mhm. That's so good. Sorry, I'm just making one quick
Oh,
little
that's
note so
okay.
I remember. I have a squirrel brain, so I'll probably, if
You
I
and me
don't write
both.
it down or
You and
record
me both. Yes.
it. Um, so then did you feel that homeschooling helped you pursue, which we kind of touched on this already, but do you feel that helped you pursue and unlock your imagination and creativity?
I think so.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't say it was the key, only
Hmm.
because I've got lots of author friends who were other school
Mm.
structures and have very vivid imaginations. But for
Yes,
me
right.
personally, I would say homeschooling benefited me tremendously. Um, on several levels because I was able, and I don't know that I would have been able to do this in any other schooling structure. I was able to explore the parts of story that I was
Mm.
specifically passionate about, like
Oh,
the
that's great.
ancestry, the history, the
Hmm.
vintage. Um,
Hmm.
I had the hours of free time to spend looking through old antique photo albums or
Hmm. Hmm.
reading old books. And that's
Right.
obviously not going to be every homeschool child's passion,
Right. Right.
but
Hmm.
when you are in that environment, you do have the opportunity to pour into an area that
Hmm.
you wouldn't necessarily have with all the other outlying commitments that come with other school structures.
That's right. Hmm. That's great. That's really good advice. Well, yeah, I think I like that about how you said that about tying into the vintage history and ancestry. Like that was your area.
Right.
And I'm a big reader and writer actually, just
Hmm.
for fun. And I think homeschooling allowed me to really, well, the curriculum we used was very literature based. So it really helped me unlock my love for reading. And I think that's also something I'm seeing a lot with homeschooling families where they can kind of cater to their kids'
Right.
areas of love and passion and kind of help them learn in that way. Like if they learn
Yeah.
better as through reading or through math, they can kind of cater it to that
Hmm.
style. I think
Absolutely.
that's great advice.
Yep.
And then what role did God play in your homeschooling journey and then also in your writing journey? It's kind of like a two-fold question.
Two, that's a big question.
That is.
Yeah. Hmm, trying to separate the two. I don't think I can really separate the two because I think as it's kind of like studying ancestry. You look back in your life and you see how God's woven
Mhm.
it.
Yes.
And you
Hmm.
wonder why he's done things the way that he's done them.
Hmm.
Like my mom had this tapestry that she brought back from Thailand. My dad was stationed there during the Vietnam War. And they brought back this tapestry, and she would always take me to it and she would flip it so you couldn't see the picture on the front. And
Mm-hmm.
there are all these threads and tangles, and it was pretty because the thread was pretty, but
Hmm.
it made zero sense. And she would always
That
say,
right.
this is what life looks like to us. And then
That's
she would
yeah.
flip it to the beautiful Oriental
Mm,
Asian side of, this beautiful snow
mm,
leopard that's going across the front and just beautiful Thai culture. And she would say, this is what God sees.
mm. That's
And
so good.
so when I look at how has God affected my journey through homeschooling and childhood and then my writing journey, there's been so many times I'm like, what on earth are you doing? And he doesn't give you the
Yeah.
answer. One of
Yeah.
the things that I've always thought about is like people are, they'll post on social media, and I've done it too, where it's like, God answered my prayers. And then they give the good news.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that's great. But you know what? Even if it was bad news, he still answered your prayers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
God always answers our prayers. So it's
Yes,
not like
that's
if
right.
we get the answer that we want, now he's
Mm-hmm.
suddenly cooperated with us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I try to look at my life as this woven tapestry, and most of the time I see the strings on the back that make not a lot of sense, are
Yeah.
sort of pretty because the colors are nice. But then I look back and now I look back where I'm at in writing, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
would I have even been able to get to this point without being homeschooled?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because I
Yeah,
wouldn't have had the time. Now, that
that's
doesn't
right. Yeah.
mean my journey is better than somebody who went
Right.
through a different school system. It
Right.
just means that's the journey that God took me on. And
Mm-hmm.
so, looking for ways for God to use our lives and give it we look so much for structure,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which are boxes, and it's very
Yes.
geometric. And I really believe when you study scripture, God's far more a bunch of threads that just go everywhere. And it's very
Yes.
organized. It's
Mm-hmm.
extremely
Mm-hmm.
organized,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not the structure that we're looking for. We don't want
Yes.
tangles and snarls and loose ends. We want boxes that end and begin.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just
Mm-hmm.
not how
That's so
life
true.
works, right?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Did I
That's
answer the
great.
question or did I
No,
just
you
go
did.
way off board?
No, that was great. I think that's true. And I think um as it like our listeners will be able to really relate to that because I think that is a lot of what homeschooling is. It's just a
Yeah.
bunch of tangled threads. It can be messy, but
Hmm.
there's a beauty at the end of it where it all
Yeah.
ties together. I
Yep.
think that's really good. That's
Yep.
very good. I'm just gonna
Absolutely.
pause real quick. I have to pull up the other questions.
Okay.
Um, this is more about your writing style. If someone is hesitant to read your books because they're spooky or
Right.
gothic,
Mhm.
what advice do you have for them?
I think that's a great question. Um, some people are turned off by a title. If they have the word haunting in it or curse, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
this
Mm-hmm.
is not a good
Mm-hmm.
idea. My children shouldn't read this, let alone me, right? So,
Yeah.
and I get that, and I respect that a lot. I mean, I think as parents, and as readers, we should always be careful what we're putting into our minds and our hearts. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I would say, if people had questions or doubts, one, I can reassure you
Mm-hmm.
that haunting and curse is not witchcrafty in my books.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you go down to the straight nuts and bolts of it, ghosts aren't
Mm-hmm.
really ghosts, hauntings aren't really
Right.
hauntings. You don't have to worry about demonic situations or
Mm-hmm.
influences.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's more like the words haunting, etc., are more like perceptions,
Mm.
not so
Yeah.
much what's actually
Psychological, yes.
right, right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'll also say that they're not necessarily going to be for everybody. I mean, if you're scared easily and you have a hard time walking down the hall at night with the light out, you'll get creeped out with these books. I've got some
Yeah.
some readers who are
Yeah.
like, "Don't read the books, just don't do it with the lights out." And then I have
Yes.
other readers that are like, "They're really actually not that creepy."
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
I mean, you can go into them with the promise that you're going to
Mm-hmm.
come out of them in the light of
Mm-hmm.
Christ,
Mm-hmm.
that there is hope. I don't leave
Mm-hmm.
my readers in darkness. I'm not horror. I'm not gory.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's
Um,
right.
and I might explore some of the darker elements of life or the hard things in life. Like
Mm-hmm.
I have
Mm-hmm.
characters who have, parents that are passing away from cancer, or there might be some characters who are coming out of abusive situations.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be
Mm-hmm.
some mental health
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
situations in some of the books. But those are all real. Like that really
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
happens in life.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I try to do with my books is take people on almost a figurative parallel of
Yeah.
what is it like to go through those dark times? And then
Mm-hmm.
how does that
Mm-hmm.
look in a story form? Like if it's a house that's boarded
Yes.
up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
That's great.
and then bring them out into what can God do? Like
Mm-hmm.
if you take the
Mm-hmm.
boards off the windows of the old haunted house and find out it's really just a shell that needs healing,
Yeah.
there's
Mm-hmm.
a lot you can do with that. So I would say that's kind of
Yeah.
probably the best way. A really long answer again.
No, no, I love it. I love long answers. And I had a friend telling me, she's like, you gotta read Jamie's book. She's like, I think because I love mystery. And I was like,
Okay.
I don't know, I'm a little scared, and I
Right,
tried the
right.
first one and I was hooked immediately
Oh, that's awesome.
because she explained, how did she say it? You it starts spooky, but by the end you rewrite it in a way that it just totally points to Christ. And I was like, that's exactly what she does. I mean, what you do, but yeah.
That's yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome, and I love that, and I like that people see that because that's the hope
Mm-hmm.
is that they go
Yeah.
on that journey, and it's not like I mean, some people have asked me if I'm like Frank Peretti or Ted Decker that
Mm-hmm.
write for
Mm-hmm.
the Christian market, and I would say no, I'm not.
Yeah.
Frank Peretti is known for like the supernatural elements,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't
Mm-hmm.
have any of that. There's no angels, there's no demons.
Yeah.
I'm not getting into spiritual warfare.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ted Decker is I would say verges on almost like horror. Like, I
Okay.
mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah.
some of his books are very dark and very scary.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I always like to say mine are more literary. So if you think of like
Yes.
Charlotte Bronte, you think of
Mm-hmm.
Charles Dickens, those are
Yes.
creepy, but they're never like something you're going to be
Yes.
upset if your 13-year-old child picks it up. Like
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It
it's
reminds me
safe
of
reading.
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I just was gonna say it reminds me the way you use symbolism and literary devices. It reminds me of is it The Fall of the House of Usher? It
Hmm.
reminds me of that.
Hmm. I
Big
love
time.
Edgar Allan Poe, as you can probably tell by
Uh-huh.
my background.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah, and so I would say Edgar Allan Poe is somebody that I try to, I don't want to say model after, but that's kind of what I try and pull is that classical dark.
Mm-hmm.
With,
Mm-hmm.
you have the heart that's stumping under the floor, but he didn't really
Mm-hmm.
go into graphic detail.
Right.
He just
Right.
creeped you out, right?
Yes.
The thump,
Yes.
thump, thump. Like, that's really creepy.
Uh-huh.
But it's also
Uh,
not gory and it wasn't satanic. It was just this nasty
right.
man that buried a body under his floor and needed to be brought to justice, right? I mean, that's really the
Right.
crux of a telltale heart.
Yes,
So,
exactly. Exactly. Um, and then what writing advice do you have for young writers, and mom writers who are homeschooling or anything like
oh
that?
yeah, yeah. Um, if you've never, I mean, if you're not really in deep, like you're not at the point where you're trying to get published, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak,
Mm-hmm.
just write. There are
Mm-hmm.
so many craft books out there, and I will say
Mm.
this, for homeschoolers. We love to pile craft books onto our children and be like,
Mm-hmm.
here, read all of these.
I
And
love
then
that.
you can do this. And
Yeah.
that's good, but it can also be harmful when it's in relation to the creative.
Oh yeah.
In
Mm-hmm.
other words, if it's mathematics, yeah, you're going to need to learn those books because you really actually need to learn
Yes.
the process.
Right.
In writing, you can read like four craft books on how to write a book, and they're all going to be different. And they're
Mm,
all going to
that's
have
true.
different methods, and they're all
Mm-hmm.
going to have different quote rules, unquote.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're just starting out to write, I always say, whether you're an adult or you have a child who's writing, just write.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get
Mm-hmm.
caught up in the how-tos and the wherefores yet. That needs to
Mm-hmm.
come, and those
Mm-hmm.
craft books are important. But when
Mm-hmm.
you're just starting to write, it's so
That's
important
good.
to foster creativity. And
Mm-hmm.
nothing kills a creative than when you're looking at your child's first attempt at a story and you go, oh, but that would never happen. That's not realistic.
Mm, that's true.
Or that,
Yes.
that was good, but you missed 87 commas. Or,
Mm, mm,
that's a creative
yeah,
killer right
that
there.
is, that is,
So if you're
yes.
writing fiction, I mean, fiction is fiction for a reason. It means sky's the limit. So
Mm-hmm.
let your child explore. My first story was about mice that
I
lived in
love
an
that.
old oak tree that was
Ah,
always mentoring these mice on how to get through life. That
I
was my
love that.
story.
That's
And
great.
if my dad or my mom had told me like oak trees don't really talk, I would have
Oh,
probably
yeah.
quit writing at
Yeah,
that point in
right.
time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So allow your creativity to flow. Don't
Mm-hmm.
get caught up in reading every single craft book that there is.
Yeah.
Figure
Mm-hmm.
out where your creativity and your writing is taking you first, and then
Mm.
find craft books that will support that.
That's so good. We actually recently talked to her name is Julie Bogart. She's the
Okay.
CEO of Brave Writer, if you've ever heard
Hmm.
of that.
Yep. Yep.
And she talked about that free writing is very important when you're just starting out. Like, don't come
Mhm.
in with lots of rules or structure. Just let them write, let them
Yep.
go, and then eventually bring in. She recommended what did she call it? Like using it's almost like a puzzle where you take like a framework of a sentence and then let the
Mhm.
child fill it back in so they
Yeah.
learn the structure and then but they do the free writing first so they can kind of
Right.
start with their creativity and then get into it
Yeah.
so then they actually like writing and it's not
Hmm.
so structured and feels like homework. So that's good.
Yeah. One of the things my mom did, which to me was like the best homeschooling method for creative writing, and it's also the cheapest curriculum you can find. Here's a secret. I'm not even kidding. She got just a lined notebook
Hmm.
and she would go through magazines, or now you could go on the internet and print out pictures. But she
Hmm.
would find pictures and she would paste them in to the page. And my assignment for creative writing was she'd either give me a story prompt for that picture,
I love
or
that.
she would give me write a story about this picture. And then she might limit it, like make sure it's no more than 1,000 words or no more than 100 words.
Oh, that's so
So
good.
by giving a word count, I had to learn to either be really, really tight with my writing because I only had 150 words and I had to
Hmm.
create a story in
Hmm.
150
Hmm.
words, not easy. Or she would give me 3 days to work on a short story and then I could take that picture. So I wrote
That's so good.
stories about, animals from National Geographic magazines to a woman that she cut out of the J.C. Penney's catalog when those were a thing,
Yeah,
and you would just, your sky's the
that's
limit. Or
great.
she'd do a collage of pictures and she'd mush
Mm-hmm.
it together. Like she'd have one old vintage and one new. And she'd be like, how do these two tie together?
Oh, well, that works out. You're still doing that. That's
hmm
great. That's
So that
wonderful.
that was my creative writing. Like she literally didn't even
Mm.
buy, she bought language books so I could learn grammar and all that, which I still fail at horribly. I helped my third grader when he was not homeschooled. I helped him fail his English test. It was
It
not a
is
proud
hard.
moment. It wasn't a
It is.
proud moment as a writer. When he
I'm
brought
not
his home,
laughing at you. I'm laughing at how you.
you should
No,
laugh
I'm
at
not.
me.
I'm
It's
not laughing.
hysterical. He came home with his homework and
Oh,
I looked at it and I was like, dude, you are going to fail this test. All of this is wrong. So I retaught him,
oh
sent him
no.
back with the correct answers, and he comes back with like barely, I think he barely got a 60% on it.
Oh
And
no.
my husband, who's the teacher, and he was, he's visibly upset. My husband's the teacher type in our house, and he picks it up, he goes, who is teaching you? Who is teaching you English and grammar? And my son goes, Mommy. And my husband goes, how are you a published author? I'm like, there's editors and there's authors. I am not an editor. I am an author. There is a difference.
Oh
So
my goodness.
it's a fun little story, but
Oh my
yeah.
word.
So if you go the creative writing route like my mom did, definitely pair it with some good grammar.
That's when you use the craft books.
That's when you use the craft book for.
Oh my goodness, I love your sense of humor. It's very refreshing. Oh, oh my goodness. And then this kind of goes along with that, but what
Mhm.
homeschooling advice do you have for moms and homeschoolers?
Um, be flexible.
That's good.
Definitely be flexible. Be forgiving of yourself. You are going to fail at something, at least from your perspective, whether it's
Mm,
actual failure or you just feel like one.
hmm
So be forgiving of yourself. Your children actually are very resilient. They'll
hmm
still survive.
hmm
My son
hmm
has still survived his failed English test from third grade. He will still be a functional adult.
Yes.
Um, I think those are some of my big ones. And, be open to change. And by that I mean,
Good.
don't assume because you're homeschooling this year that next year you're going to homeschool or
hmm
it's going to look the same.
hmm
Um,
hmm
because every year is different. And we've
That's
always
right.
told our kids that they're like, are we gonna be homeschooled forever? And we're like, we'll relook at it next year. We're just gonna
hmm
get through this year and let's look at where things are at next year and make
Yes.
that determination based on your needs. And some families split. Some of them have
hmm
some kids that are in public school because that's just better for them and others that are
hmm
homeschooled. So it's not a one size fits all.
hmm That's good. That's really, we talked to, David and I talked to, the president of Apologia, and he said something similar. He said we took it, I think through years 1 to 4, he said we would take it like year by
Mm-hmm.
year. And then
Mm-hmm.
eventually we figured out it just worked for our family. And then what we would do is we would sit down with our kids and talk about what curriculums we were using, what we did
Yep.
last year, and then restructure it each year because
Yep.
we didn't want to use the same thing every year. We wanted to try something different and be open
Mm-hmm.
and flexible, like you
Mm-hmm.
said. So that's really good
Yep.
advice. Very good.
And it's really important to me to have the kids involved in that. Not that they're going to make the final decision, obviously.
Right.
But I think it's important for them to have a say in their education,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and to tell us what they're not connecting with. I mean, we went through three different curriculums with my son for math until he finally was like, oh, this one just opened the world, and now he's
Mm-hmm.
whizzing through math, no problem. But before we were
That's
actually
great.
concerned, like, do we need to get a tutor?
Mm-hmm.
What's
Mm-hmm.
not working? Maybe homeschooling's
Yeah.
not going to make it. So involving my son in that and realizing he's very visual and we
Mm-hmm.
need other elements in this curriculum was
Yeah.
really important.
That's wonderful. That's really good. And then what how do you recommend we support you or share about your books or anything like that?
Well, there's a lot of ways to support authors. One of the things you can do with your kids is any books that they read.
Mm-hmm.
go on to bookseller sites like Amazon, Barnes and
Mm-hmm.
Noble, christianbook.com, and anywhere you can leave an online review. Teach your kids to leave
Yes.
reviews because those are
Yeah,
one of the biggest ways that
that's
you can
great.
help authors, and it's free, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can put
Mm-hmm.
them on Goodreads, etc. And what that
That's
does
right.
is it does a couple things where it teaches other readers that this book is recommended and why.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it also tells the companies that you're leaving the reviews for that they should give more priority in letting the readers know about these books. So,
Mm-hmm.
especially within the world of clean fiction, Christian fiction, those types of
Yes.
things, we tend to get pushed down to the bottom of the algorithms.
Mm-hmm.
And the more reviews, the more we bust open those algorithms.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so that's a real basic way that you can support any author that you love.
Mm-hmm.
And then as far as me personally, just, give my books a shot if you're freaked out.
Uh-huh.
And if you're not freaked out, I have a lot of kids. People will ask me like, are your books probably not appropriate for children? And I actually have a lot of homeschoolers that read my books.
I would think, yeah, I think they
Yeah.
would be, especially with the historical element. They can be
Mhm.
very, they are very educational.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they're really fun to talk about with kids, and it
Mm-hmm.
also whether it's my book or more of a suspenseful book or a mystery, etc. It shows the generations coming up that Christian/clean fiction is worth their time. It's not just what
Yes.
we would call
Mm-hmm.
bonnet fiction or
Mm-hmm.
prairie fiction.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of amazing fiction within the Christian fiction industry that
That's right.
just doesn't get attention like it should.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's so true. That's great. And I just realized this. I have done like I have reviewed your books because I'm a part of like the Bethany House, whatever
Oh,
it's
yeah,
called,
thank you.
influencer
Yeah,
team.
yeah.
No, and I'm not saying that to pat myself on the back. I'm just saying if I tag you and stuff, I'm Bethany, the bookworm girl or whatever it is. So if
Oh,
I
that's
come
you.
up,
Okay,
yeah,
yeah,
I'm the
yeah.
same
Okay,
person. Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So
Awesome.
that
Yeah.
way, I'm not a weirdo.
I wasn't too worried about it. I get some emails from some weirdos. You have not been one of them.
Oh dear. I can only imagine. Oh my
It's fun,
goodness.
especially now with the onslaught of AI. I think every
Mm.
morning I wake up to about three AI written
Uh,
emails, which are really kind of comical now. I just read
mm.
them for fun.
Well, that's actually a question I would like to ask. I've just been seeing how homeschooling families are starting to use AI to teach their
Mhm.
children. How do you feel about that as an author?
AI is its own ethical bucket of worms, when
Mm-hmm.
you open it up. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
definitely not an authority on it. It's kind of funny because what I do with social media management and all of that, AI is like astounding and it's super helpful. And
Mm-hmm.
I also think we're moving into a world where, like, if you don't adopt at least some of it, you're going to
Mm-hmm.
get way left behind.
Yeah,
Um,
that's true.
and so I do think it's important. On the flip side, several of my books were used to train AI without permission.
Uh,
I mean, there's huge
mm,
lawsuits right now going on where authors in all markets have books that were fed word for word into the AI systems to train
mm,
the AI systems. And the same thing with artists,
mm-hmm.
and AI
Mm-hmm.
photography and AI graphics and AI
Mm-hmm.
movies, etc. So there's all these ethical lines, right?
Yes.
And
Mm-hmm.
what's right, what's wrong. I think we're all kind of exploring it. I
Mm-hmm.
think what's really important is um, you use it ethically as far as where you stand before God, right?
Mm, that's good. Yeah.
Like I don't, and like if you write me a short story, I'm not going to upload that into AI and then have it rewrite it for me and then pass it
Mm-hmm.
off as mine.
Yeah, right.
Also, my books are all human authored. Like I don't write any of my passages in AI. They're
Mm-hmm.
all
Mm-hmm.
from my own mind.
Right,
Um,
right.
and so that's great. And I don't use AI a whole lot with writing, even to brainstorm or anything, because I
Mm-hmm.
really want it to be as much mine as
Yeah,
possible. So if I
yeah.
use AI like for writing, I try to
Mm-hmm.
use it like I kind of would use Google, like,
Right,
what's a situation where, a gun might go off and the bullet ricochet? Okay, well, it
right,
might give me 16 different scenarios. I might use those, but I'm not going to be
right.
like, give me a chapter by chapter outline for this synopsis, and now all I have to do is write each
Exactly.
chapter. I don't do
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah,
So
no. Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
interesting.
that's great. Yeah, it is a gray area. I like how you
Yeah.
said that because there are benefits, but then there are also some
Hmm.
areas where it's not so great, especially with using other people's materials. That's
Right.
very concerning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think people need to realize too, I mean, honestly, we've been using AI for years. I mean, search engines are based off of AI. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like it just suddenly woke up a few months ago and went, oh, we're a new
Yeah.
thing, right? It's just
Yeah,
in a different format
exactly.
now. So I think there's a process of how do we use this, like with anything, how do you use it for good and then how do you avoid
That's
using it
right.
for evil?
That's
'Cause the
great.
internet's
That's
the same
wonderful.
thing. Like it can be
Yeah,
good and it can be really bad.
that's right. That's totally, yeah, that's accurate. So just to kind of wrap up, do you have any other tips or anything you want to share that's writing related coming up for what you're doing? Maybe you can't share about that because it's probably, but whatever, if you have
No,
anything else.
no, that's great. No, I'm always coming out with books. I have so my Gothic mysteries are found from Bethany House Publishers. They're
Mhm,
part of Baker Publishing Group, which is a Christian publishing house.
mhm,
I also write love-inspired suspense, which is through Harlequin, which is
mhm.
interesting because Harlequin writes everything from things we cannot repeat to Christian
Yeah,
suspense,
yeah,
right? So
exactly.
it's
Yeah,
that's an interesting world to be a part of right now,
I'm
and
sure.
I love the challenge of it.
Mm-hmm,
And those are just basic. They're very, very basic. They're just like half romance, half
mm-hmm,
suspense.
mm-hmm.
The kind where like the poor heroine like gets shot at, kidnapped, mugged, and strangled in 55,000 words and somehow comes out alive and in love. Figure that one
That's
out.
the best.
But those are really popular. But you know, one of the things that I'm doing right now that I'm really, really excited about, and it's a complete deviation from anything I've ever written. In fact, my fans will probably have whiplash. But next year around Valentine's Day, I'm putting out a YA rom-com that
Oh,
is
wow.
co-written with my daughter.
Oh,
And we're
that's
doing
wonderful.
it to start going, not going after, but to start filling in the gap for YA books that just don't exist for girls that want fun rom-coms that aren't sexual in nature,
It's
um,
so hard to find.
party
Yes.
life in nature.
Hmm.
And these are just like clean, sweet, fun high school romance
I
that
love
isn't
that.
taking romance too far
Yeah,
or
I love that.
exclusive. So we've got
Yeah,
one coming out. It's called Love and Baseball. It's coming
wonderful.
out next February, 2026. And it's
Great.
basic. It's kind of fun because it's a girl who thinks she's supposed to have a boyfriend because everybody tells her to, and she just reads books and really would rather not have one. So she
That's
creates
great.
a boyfriend with AI and
Oh
just
my
comes up with an
goodness.
imaginary boyfriend. And then one day he suddenly shows up at school and she's like, wait, this guy actually
Oh
exists.
my goodness. This sounds very interesting. I like this.
And
This
then
is great.
he's like the popular baseball player and he's getting tired of all the girls chasing him. So they just decide to fake a date so they can get everybody off their backs.
Oh my goodness. This sounds
So
fun. So are you publishing it self-published
I'm
or
self-publishing that one. Yeah.
great, great. I will
Yes.
be on the lookout for that, definitely.
Yeah.
And you're okay if we share this information in our.
100% yes.
Okay, good,
Yes,
good.
because this is something that we really want to get in the hands of young readers. Like if you've ever read Robin Jones Gunn, Christy Miller
Mm-hmm.
stories,
Yes,
it's kind of along those lines. Like we
I
want to
love
we
that.
want to reach that group of girls that need wholesome, fun, clean.
Mm,
They can still have fun with romance without it being damaging.
yes.
And
Mm-hmm.
also come out with a story where it was like, that was just fun. It was just fun.
Yes. And that's definitely a needed area
Yeah.
right now. I'm seeing it over and over again on social media.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. My daughter's 15, almost 16, and she has a group of friends on Instagram. And the big thing right now is a lot of girls and a lot of her friends on Instagram aren't even Christian. They're not Bible believing, but they
Mm-hmm.
are searching so hard for
Mm-hmm.
fiction that's
Mm-hmm.
just good fiction and it's not
Yes.
icky, as they call it, or
Yes.
filled
Mm-hmm.
with junk. And so
Yes,
they're
exactly.
constantly exchanging titles. And my daughter's like, Mom, please, can you write Love and Baseball? Like, I don't know anything about baseball. And she's like, I do. I know everything. It's my life. So
Well, that worked out
it worked
perfectly.
out
And
really
what a
well.
great way to show what you can do when you're homeschooling. That's
Yeah,
wonderful.
absolutely.
That's
And
wonderful.
she was actually just before we got on the call, she was down here helping me work on the back cover copies as we're getting it ready to
I
put up
love
on
that. That's
Amazon.
so
And
great.
I read it to her. I'm like, does this sound like what you're thinking? And she's like, oh my gosh, Mom, hurry up. Hurry up. I want to read the whole thing. And I'm like, well, it's
I
not quite
love
done
that.
yet.
I'm definitely going to be snooping around for that. I'm very excited. That's great. And
Well,
I really, that is so needed right now. And you're right. Even people who aren't Bible believing are looking for that. So that
yeah,
is so, it's very needed. Very
yep,
needed.
yep. So
Yeah.
we're trying to change the face of fiction for young women right
That's
now, and
wonderful.
that's
If
something that
only
I'm
you would
looking
have
at.
written it when I was in high school.
Well, that's the fun thing with YA though. It's like,
Yes.
you don't usually like have YA readers reading about women who are 50 years old, but there's still 50-year-old women that are so fine going back
Oh,
and reading
yeah.
about
I
high
still read it
school.
all the
I
time.
know,
Yeah.
exactly. So,
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for this. This was very insightful, and I really appreciate everything you shared. I know David's going to love it.
well, I hope so. I hope so. And
Yes.
yeah, anytime you need help with something, or if you need other authors you want to connect with, I've got a
Thank
plethora
you.
of people that I know, like Trisha Goyer, who's big in the homeschool industry, and
Okay. Okay.
I can help hook you up with any of those.
That
I
would
know
be
Robin, Jones Gunn, all of
okay.
those people. So
Okay. Yeah, I'll talk to David,
good
and
friends
that
with
would be
all of them.
great.
So anything
That would
like
be
that I can
great.
help you with. Yep.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, and I hope you have a good rest of your day and
All
getting
right, you
your
too.
book on Amazon.
I know I got to get that up now.
Yeah, I'll let you go so you can do that.
You're like, please go do it now.
Yeah, do it so I can look.
All right, I'll send you a link when it's up. It probably won't be up for a couple days,
Great.
but hopefully it will.
Great. Thank you very
Here's
much.
the here's
Oh,
the
oh, oh, that's so cute. I love that.
yeah, it's kind of blurry, isn't it?
I can still make it out.
All
Wow,
right.
that's so cute. I
Yeah.
love
And
that.
that
And
was a
then
cover that my daughter and I designed together too. So it's like you get to do all that
wonderful.
stuff together. So much fun.
Yes. Yes, that's great. Ah, well, thank you
All
so much. I
right.
really appreciate it.
And thanks for reviewing books and being a book
Oh, no
philosopher.
problem.
That's
I love it.
awesome. That's
Thank
huge.
you.
All right. Sounds
All
good.
right.
We'll see you around.
Bye.
Bye.